DreamHack Masters Malmo is brought to you by Aces ROG, HyperX, and Monster Energy.
The Masters come out to play in Malmo. It is time for playoffs. It is time for the arena itself. And so much to look forward to. Many have gathered. The fans have congregated in the Malmo arena. You can see it on your screens there. A beautiful location for hopefully some beautiful Counter-Strike. Welcome to the playoffs. This is where the 8 that did manage to keep their head above water in the groups are going to go ahead and clash for a big lump of cash. $250,000 on the line, but also a whole lot of pride and some defending their title. The Ninjas in Malmo last year, and now they're back with a vengeance alongside many other familiar house names. I'm Machine, and I'm joined by some beautiful faces. Before you see them, a big thank you to the sponsors to make all of this possible. Monster Energy, Aces ROG, and HyperX have all congregated to make this an event to remember, and hopefully the guys in the arena will, because it looks like there is a lot of them, and there's a lot to look forward to when you do see. I mean, there is a lot of twists and turns coming into this event. I'm joined by Halvor Vendetta Gudestål, the ever-lovely Mr. Jacob Pimp Vinica, and Janko YNK Paunovic.
Yeah, and I can already start selling you on this on today, really. Just you can pick wherever you want to start. If you want to pick, start with the perfect matchups for today, or just the fact that we have pretty much every storyline you could have wanted coming into this as well.
Every storyline.
Yeah, no, so when you look at the matchups, it's perfect. First off, you have SK Astralis on opposite sides of the bracket, so, bracket fans rejoice all around the world. In addition to that, you have the matchup from last year's Malmo finals in Navi versus NIP. You have Immortals versus North. Again, kind of two of the more hot teams in this tournament from what we've seen, like in terms of just how they've played. And obviously G2 SK, kind of like the one kryptonite that SK seems to have. Just everything just is a perfect recipe for an amazing day of CS.
There was this kind of collaborative, both sigh and celebration when we did show those playoff brackets. Janko, I know you were celebrating at home when you saw them. You got to see the fact that, not only are they on different sides of the bracket, but almost, if you go through, almost every team, almost every matchup has some degree of story.
I mean, not really at home, I was here at the tournament.
Well, I called the
Second
hotel.
home.
But me and Chad were joking in the green room, actually, we should just rig the brackets every single time, to avoid nonsense like we had at the major. Obviously, that is not possible, but it does feel nice when it turns out like this. I think, actually, DreamHack Masters Vegas was a tournament after a long time where we actually had a similar situation, right? Really good brackets, really good matchups, and it resulted in a very exciting tournament all around. So I hope for a replay of that here in Malmo.
Yeah, now the arena is set, the stage is set quite literally, actually. We'll be seeing it soon. But Jacob, there's always something kind of a nice feel around the arena when you do kind of, you arrive on that playoff day.
Sure, yeah. There's a lot of people here, a lot of fans, especially coming into Scandinavia, being a Dane myself. There's a lot of Danish people here as well. We have like this big Counter-Strike group on Facebook for Danish players who play Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and there's a lot of people in there writing that they're coming, taking pictures, and they're generally excited. I can only imagine it's the same for the Swedes.
And of course, you get that luxury of having Astralis and North. So, the Danes are flying high at the moment here in Malmo. We have to remind everyone how they got here, because they didn't necessarily just get a free ticket. In fact, some of them had to work incredibly hard for it. The group stages took place, and we saw, of course, 8 teams in the end fall flat on their face. Some more expected than others, and some very premature exits for big names such as Virtus Pro. We're going to go ahead and have a quick recap then of that group stage. We're going to remind you how we got to the 8 teams that will be walking out on stage today.
Simple inside of the cubby, they have to check it. Taz already looking at it, considering it. Good peek from Simple. I thought he was going to get the second as well when he went out for more. Good flash in. He will indeed.
And now for the post back the angle. Yeah, this should be impossible for the win. That's a nice flick, though. But still, with the 10th second, he's got to find Hobbit off to the left. Oh! What is that flick from Drake?
I heard some grass, you know, so I just flicked it and it hit, you know.
What a pop. Must-win round for Cloud9. 1 smoke, 2 flashbangs, and headshot for Fur. Aggressive towards long A. Surely he falls back, but so aggressive. Wants to find him even more kills. He gets 2, surely not 3. Oh God, it's a massacre.
Hitting 1 more headshot, getting close. Rain with 1 as well. It's crumbling for Gambit. Gonna get a good kill in from Fitch. He drops another one with the FAMAS, but it's been a 1-on-2 here, and Fitch comes charging through. What the hell just happened?
What a god on the flank. It's so disgusting with the FAMAS.
What a quick take, and we're both still in the middle. Lekro has to win this fight in the middle, otherwise this is not going to work out. It might not anyway. JW's down, Lekro is down, and Bolts is an unbelievable champion at this point in time. He's got 25 kills.
It's simple in a 1 versus 5. He's down to 2, he's got a 3rd! All headshots, he better show up! Only way that it is if it came up mid. If it followed Simple all the way around the map, it's not. If he's gonna get closer and closer, Simple sees it, and Simple capitalizes!
Amazing round by Simple. He's just Superman.
And these are what we were left with. As the dust does settle, if not just for a moment, you can see the games we get to dig our teeth into today.
Yeah, we have at the top of the bracket, North versus Immortals, as Vendetta pointed out, 2 of the teams that are in very good form at the moment. You know, a lot of us were questioning Immortals after the major. Is it going to be a one-off thing? We heard rumors of turmoil within the team, but they've proven us wrong so far. They've been playing really well in the tournament. North, too, after the roster change, a bit more structured. Valdez seems to have fit in the team pretty well. Astralis Gambit after that, obviously the rematch of the semi-final at the major. I think Astralis is definitely out for blood for that one, albeit Zeus is not in the lineup. He's now in Navi, and Navi is facing NIP in the rematch of the grand finals of last year. That was a barn burner. Both teams a bit of a resurgence, I think it's safe to say, especially for NIP after the double roster change. And 2 of the teams that haven't made a roster change are our last quarterfinalists, SK Gaming and G2 Esports. A very interesting very interesting matchup, simply because SK, even when they were at their very top, they always seem to have struggled against G2 in series especially. So it might be a way for G2 to make another deep run, even with their inconsistent performances.
Classic G2. They may struggle against some of the lower tier teams, or even just middle tier, but as soon as you get against the best, they seem to go ahead and do a whole lot of damage. So SK perhaps quaking in their boots as they try and get past their kryptonite. And we get to go ahead and take a quick journey to the arena now. Yes, we've moved from the digs and we've actually expanded our horizons. And Sue, I'm jealous. You have eyes on the arena.
It's looking absolutely amazing. The fans are filling in, and I absolutely cannot wait for the action to get started.
My God. No trophy behind you yet, but I mean, as the fans do fill in, I just have to ask, does it feel as good as it did last year already?
Oh, I'm already getting chills. I cannot wait for this crowd to be as loud as it was, if not louder than last year. Yes!
I absolutely love it. So you're not going to move that camera, are you? I still haven't seen it. You're just going to have to... Can you describe it to me? Give me a description. Is it as a beautiful... Is it gorgeous?
It is gorgeous. I don't want to say too much. You guys just have to witness it yourselves, as we will be seeing the opening ceremony in just a few minutes. You don't want to miss it.
Oh, man. Okay, thank you, Sue. I'm going to get ready for you so we can get there quicker. It is, of course, the arena, the Malmo arena, and it was something that really did kind of go off to a flying start. Barn burner used by Yanko to describe that grand final, and it truly was. We had, like, the storyline where Guardian flies in. It feels like, you know, superhero return. I was injured, but I'm not anymore. They get to the grand final. Lekro, of course, Threat, all these new names that were just kind of providing for their team, and we got to see everything that you could have wanted in a final. Hopefully we get something similar again. It does seem like the stage is certainly set for it. Coming back to that kind of not only the SKG2 discussion, but also revenge for the Astralis Gambit. I mean, something about that really does get me hyped up, just because there are, you know, we build up stories on the desk, Jacob, but there's no denying that players will have similar mindsets coming into this.
For sure, and especially Astralis, because I think they're very disappointed in their major run. You know, they felt that facing SK in the quarterfinal, that was the biggest obstacle they could have that major, you know, and they overcome that by playing some of the best CS Astralis have ever played, you know, only to go in against Gambit, which is like sort of an unknown quantity, to lose it, you know. So they're very thirsty for the revenge, and I think they want to show that that Gambit game was not like necessarily the Astralis level that they can be on all the time, you know. So they want the revenge, and they want to show that they can win this tournament and move on forward to again be called the #1 team in the world.
My God, Halvor, this is going to be a big one.
It's going to be a massive one. I think it's really cool to just for the fact that even though there's been changes to Gambit, they've shown that they're a very competitive team still, knocking out FaZe, one of the teams that you would have expected to be here at this point in the arena. So yeah, it's not going to be an easy task for Astralis, even still.
4 days of practice for FaZe, and they didn't quite have enough time to get everything in order.
Yep.
However, there's still lots of huge names that'll be taking to the stage. And speak of the devil, the stage is ready. So let's go ahead, strap yourselves in, because we're going to take a walk through time as we get ready for DreamHack Masters Malmo playoffs to begin.
One and a half years ago, the epic story of DreamHack Masters began in Malmo. An unforgettable memory in the history of modern esports, where NIP stood as national heroes after an epic 2-0 win against Na'Vi in the grand final.
They don't have armor. He could chew them up right here. Not checking the first one. Get right, letting them through. There's the 1-2. Goes with a triple get right. They got the setup here to try and deal with this. Now for the Molotov. There's the spray coming through. Exist. Just saving Freiburg, and he gets a third kill as well. Down, but shot in the back by Edward. Freiburg with the lineup. Gets one. Follows it up. 12 bullets left, and he gets a triple kill. NIP. What a story it's been already.
1 year later, the story of Masters continued on the other side of the world. In the Sin City of Entertainment, Las Vegas, Virtus Pro showed us all once again how strong the power of roster persistence really can be.
Doesn't have that angle anymore. Push through though and snacks. They don't see him. Finds one already. Looks for another. He's got the headshot. He's looking for the third. He's got that as well. How aggressive he's been. Certainly warming up to the fact that he's on SK and he's got a teammate directly beside him. Talking work together, but they don't go in the same peak. Oh, pass! No chance for pass. And a strike. Nice shot. Snacks up close. And a straight flash high in the sky. They won't be able to dodge. Means he can go back for more. Finds a second and a third. Snacks on fire. What a shot!
They say that what happens in Vegas comes to Malmo. We're back where it all began. Once again, the world elite has gathered here. Once again, dreams will come true. Hopes will be shattered. And once again, you will be here when one team becomes the Masters. Welcome on stage, the former DreamHack Masters Malmo champion and CSGO legend, bringing you the trophy for the 3rd edition of DreamHack Masters. Give him a warm welcome. The King of Banana, Freiburg. And the 8 teams that have fought for their lives and made it through the group stage. Astralis.
Oh, they've done it again. good.
How many times are they going to give him the chance to hit that shot, man?
G2 Esports.
Oh my gosh, Shuxy, you've got to be kidding.
Gambit.
This is huge for Gambit, and even Rainfalls, they're caught with their pants down.
Immortals.
And Bolts is an unbelievable champion at this point in time.
Navi.
It's simple in a 1 versus 5. He's down to 2. He's got a third. All headshot.
North.
Not thinking about the possible, but here we go. Config with 2 frags, almost 3.
SK Gaming.
Kills, he gets 2, surely not 3. Oh god, it's a massacre.
Ninjas in pajamas.
Oh! What is that flick from Draken?
When it all comes to an end, one team will become the Masters.
Let's get this party started. Yes, indeed, it is our 3rd iteration of DreamHack Masters, and just one team of the 8 coming into today will have the luxury of lifting it to the roars of those fans. It's only very early, and already they start to enter the arena and prepare themselves for what will be a long day of their favorite video game, and the same can be said for these guys here. They love it, sometimes they hate it, as we all do. It is, of course, Counter-Strike, and it is now time to really dig our teeth into how this one is going to go down. We've kind of been pulling on various threads, letting you know that there is so much more going on for those 5 humans in one booth versus the other 5. And all round, we have yet to really talk too much about those Danes, Jacob. You know, we've talked about the fact that Astralis kind of, once again, they get to playoffs, and that's something that usually can be easily said and usually easily done. This is the next step, though. This is where things really do need to come together.
For sure, and Astralis has been known, unknown quantity, for actually making it to the semifinals and progressing in these playoffs. Whereas North have their troubles when they had Magic's Boy on board. Like, they will always get to the playoffs, but they will always somehow find a way to lose. You know, you even saw that the major against the Virtus Pro, who arguably did play better at the major than they did here, but it was still not a Virtus Pro in top shape. You know, it was a Virtus Pro that Nord on a good day should have beaten. You know, so they are hungry to actually show that they can progress into the semifinals and maybe even the final. And the bracket they got today allows them to do so. You know, Immortals is not the most scary opponent they could have hoped for. Same goes for Astralis. You know, we've talked about it before. They're hungry to show that Gambit loss at the major was just in their eyes a fluke.
Actually, I mean, speaking to Dupree as well, it seems very clear that there's a lot of respect Astralis give towards Gambit, Janko. Like, they kind of said there is no shame almost in losing to the Gambit that lifted the trophy. You lost to the major winner, I guess is one way to look at it, and now they want revenge.
Absolutely not. Gambit legitimately outplayed Astralis in that series. Yes, on that overpass game, Mo had one of the games of his career, safe to say, but that will also happen. I think he has shown, even at this tournament, that he can repeat that performance here and there, and I think the reason why Astralis also respects Gambit is because of the way they play CS. I think they will respect Gambit much more than FaZe, perhaps, because Gambit as well tries to play good fundamental CS, right, with good strategies, with good foundations, not that much individual based, which is, I think, what Astralis hates to see.
Well, talking of individual based, I mean, the teams that are about to take the stage could not be better examples of that, especially the French G2. Of course, there is structure present, Halvor, and I know that you have...
At times.
At times, there is, yeah.
When they force by.
Yeah, when you see the CZs, especially now, we don't know what we're going to see. Yeah, strap yourselves in, boys. We'll be talking all about it, G2 versus SK, but what better way to set the scene for our first best of 3 than actually getting to hear from the players themselves. We sat down with them ahead of this match. We get to hear what both G2 and SK had to say.
We love playing in front of an audience. That feeling when you go into the stage before you match, the goosebumps you have, that's something we really love.
Playing DreamHack Masters is special. It was really good to play in the arena. We never played there, so that's gonna be the first time, and I'm really, really proud that we made it to the stage.
As a result, Phelps can't find his angle, does manage to open up a gap. Now he's got a downfall to find in the sight. Kill him right now. Otherwise, there's not going to be time. 4 seconds, and he's going to get the plant down. Lucas comes charging in. Oh my gosh, Shuxy, you've got to...
I believe we can win this tournament. We are here to win this tournament.
We definitely feel confident. It's gonna be a real pleasure for us to play in the arena.
SK will crush DreamHack Masters. We're gonna show them who's the best.
And for the first quarterfinal, welcome on stage, G2 Esports, and SK Gaming.
On the left side of the stage stand G2, looking to finally affirm themselves as ones that can battle with the top dogs. The names suggest it, we've yet to see it. And on the other side, of course, there's plenty of evidence of what SK are capable of. The likes of Shoxy, Body, Newface, NBK, we've seen him for a whole long time at DreamHack events. And now on the other side, Taco wanted to get to the stage and he got his wish. For the first time in the Malmo Arena, we have SK Gaming. I'm sure the audience and them are not complaining, not whatsoever. This is going to be a big affair, hoping to stretch across 3 maps, or at least that's just me, as a bit of a loser and a bit of a lover of Counter-Strike. Halvor, the kryptonite is the word we've been using a little bit, and I want to explore that just a little bit more about how possibly can a team that is so dominant, of course the Brazilians SK, have a problem with one particular team? Are we talking style here, or is it just mind games at the end of the day?
I think it comes down to the playstyle that's just awkward for them to play versus, which is weird because one of the ways that SK actually managed to get to the top was through their system and through their playstyle that toppled other teams of a similar playstyle. But there is something unique to this French lineup in terms of just how their individuals can perform on any given day. And in the past, when they've had success versus SK, it has been, in many of the matchups, Shox, who has really come into his own and kind of carried his team to victory. And we haven't really seen him do all that much for G2 leading up to this in the couple of games they played so far in the tournament. So I think this is really his big chance to have a come-out party.
But it's not necessarily, Shox win. Shox is playing amazing and they don't win. I mean, G2 has so many strings to that bow at this point, Jacob.
For sure, and they have like a Kenny's as well, One of the things I looked into when we talked about being the kryptonite was I went in and looked at the stats, for the games. And one of the things I think G2 have had success with is closing down Cold Zero to some degree, When you look over all I think it's 4 maps or 5 maps they played against each other with these certain lineups.
Yeah, I think they're 4-1 in favor of G2.
Exactly,
yeah.
So 5 maps in total. Cold Zero has a KDR radio on, I think it's 1.02 or something like that, That's not Cold Zero-ish, That's not what he normally produces against the best teams, So I don't know what it is that G2 does. If it's the individual style, if it's the skill that actually get matched in this lineup, against Cold Zero, that could close him a little bit down. But it seems that he struggles a little bit more than against the likes of Astralis or Navi, for example.
Well, I mean, in the examples you've given, there seems to be a little bit more of a predictability and a bit more structure, perhaps, to their gameplay. I know, speaking to Dupree, I keep using him as an example just because we attempt to play PUBG together, and it's not always good. So I usually just lie there on the floor and ask him about Counter-Strike. Yeah. Yanko, he says that G2, for some reason, they just tilt you. You get angry because you're dying in ways you don't feel like you should. You're holding an angle and then suddenly there's deagle headshots in the kill feed. It can be frustrating.
Absolutely, and also, they like to take duels at the same time everywhere on the map. So obviously that will depend on your success rate in entry kills, right? If you lose those duels, you're not going to have a great time and you're probably going to get blown out of the server. But if you keep winning, then it's very frustrating because it's very difficult to find a way around that. In the end of the day, the game comes down to getting those kills. So you can try to avoid it with going for more setups, maybe some aggressive plays, trying to do things as a team. But that's why we say that G2 is one of the teams with the highest ceiling out there. When they are on their A game, it's very difficult to stop them.
And a discussion that we used to have regarding this roster in particular was that of their absent CT sides. It was really hard to kind of work out. We couldn't solve the mystery, but it was, we're talking like double digits T halves and then unable to defend. I mean, is that something, I haven't seen, it's going to be intriguing to see if that's been fixed, surely.
Yeah, and again, well, judging for what we saw versus Immortals, it's still a lot of the same old in terms of what they slip up with and how other teams get back into the game. So that worries me a little bit. I think more so than the CT side, in terms of just how they structure it or what kind of setups they use and everything, I think it comes more down to how they manage their economy. And it's a bit of a broken record when it comes to this team, but they do have a bit of a fetish for just buying up when nobody else should. I feel like they never seen a buy that they didn't really like, and that's kind of what G2 needs to keep in check. But then again, that's also part of what makes them such a tough team to play against, because you can never really feel like you're in the safe spot if you're playing against them. It's like, yeah, they should be ecoing, but all of a sudden, there's ZZs, Deagles, or Tech9s and whatever, and head armor coming running at you.
But look at the other side of the server. I mean, these guys are more than capable. Look at Cold Zero. He's going to be happy to great Deagle versus Deagle Fire with Fire as he is going to be alongside none other than Fallen himself. The double AWP combo that we've seen kick up a notch at these big events. When the going gets tough, these boys are going to be fighting tooth and nail to get that trophy in their grasp.
And Fallen is actually one of the players who, again, similar to Shox, hasn't necessarily had the best tournament up till this point, but usually plays really well in this particular matchup. So I'm looking to Fallen to actually come alive here once again. So if I just had to focus in on two players that I would like to see kind of just have their big showing, it would be Fallen and Shoxy. So I guess the two in-game leaders on both sides.
I think the big reason for why G2 always plays well against SK is Shox, not necessarily because of his performance, individually on the server. I think he's very confident and comfortable playing on SK and calling against SK. I think G2 has played some of their best Counter-Strike when they play against SK, especially on the CT side. Good mid-round aggression. I will remember that Overpass game. I think it was Pro League finals where they had so many good calls mid-round. It always seemed like SK tried everything on the T side and G2 was one step ahead all the time. And when you are playing like that, when you're getting the good reads and the good calls, that instills a lot of confidence in your teammates as well. That's why everyone is able to contribute, and SK players are aware of it as well. It's not like they have a mental barrier, at least not knowingly. Maybe it's somewhere in the back of their heads, but they're aware that just G2 unfortunately plays their best CS against them, and eventually they're going to get on that level and be able to take them down.
And this is where the fun discussion does continue. I mean, not only will there be all of that sexy mid-round aggression and just fantastic Counter-Strike, we have to find out where the battlefield will be. There is map discussion to be had, and it does seem like we're going to be jumping into this one. And already, goodbye Nuke. Let's think about this. Let's think out loud.
I think this is actually really interesting because we've seen G2 open up Mirage for the first time in forever. And that's obviously like a massive map for SK. Their previous auto ban, is now potentially out the door for G2. That opens up new avenues. We might see Train being banned out again. With the current state of SK, we've seen them being very wobbly on the map. Yeah, G2 could have taken the chance of actually leaving Train in because it's, again, a map that they know how to play, even though they probably stopped practicing it since they're leaving Mirage in now. But I don't know. I'm thinking we're going to see something of Cash, Overpass. That's two very frequent maps, potentially Cobble as well as the third. Like oftentimes when these teams come up against each other.
Okay, what do you make of it, Yenko?
I think it's interesting from G2 to Veto Train. Yes, they've shifted to that from Mirage, but SK is never going to pick it if you leave it in. So why would you ban it? Why don't use it on something else? Interesting to see that SK picks Cobble. I think that's a confidence pick. They seem to be very dominant on the map at the moment. It's between Cobble, Cash, and Mirage for SK. Those are their three strongest maps, and probably it's just based off of preparation and confidence at the moment. For G2, their pick, is it going to be Overpass now that it's open in the pool? As we mentioned, they had some good performances on it. No, they decide to go for Inferno. Another map where G2 very early on was very, very strong on the CT side, going for that double op, which is something I personally dislike. They went for it a little bit too much, but as the veto continues, we see SK themselves vetoing Overpass, and now the last two maps are Mirage and Cash.
The two you mentioned as SKs.
Both are great for SK, so I'm not really sure that Train veto is still bugging me. You could have vetoed one of those two maps, and then SK themselves maybe veto Train in the second phase.
I genuinely never thought we'd get to the point where we see G2 go up against SK, so we know what and not choose to ban Mirage. It's this whole not banning Mirage thing. Not only that, they've chosen it between Cash and Mirage. They've gone for it, Jacob.
They must be confident in the Mirage, because going to a third map on Mirage against SK, that's pretty much a nightmare for any team in this world, So G2 must have been practicing at home. We saw yesterday that they can play the map, but still not. It's not a tried map for them. I agree with John Janko is saying, like Inferno for G2, that's not a stable map for them. That's a map they play well, but we even saw it at DreamHack Tours, I believe. They lost to a Danish team called, now it's X-Trick, that's a team not even ranked top 30 in the world, They're not stable on Inferno. And against SK, who's so fundamentally strong, it could be a problem.
Yeah, to me, it's either this veto either shows arrogance or confidence, but I'm not sure which one it is.
You never are with the French, are you?
Yeah, it's a fine line really with these guys, and I guess this is where we could see a very flat G2 or the complete opposite, where they just come out guns blazing. I agree with the Inferno assessment that they haven't really been a consistent force on it. I guess the one benefit they have is that neither has SK really on Inferno. I don't think they have it perfectly locked down. We've seen, sure, they've kind of figured out how they want to play it in terms of how they want to set up their CT sides and everything, but I still think there's a lot of gaps in what they're doing. And what we saw on the first day, really, when they were playing Inferno, that was just a pretty bad performance, honestly, from SK side. But I think that was more down to individuals failing, and that doesn't really happen too often when it comes to these Brazilians. So in that sense, they should be all right. But yeah, a bit of a out of the ordinary Veto in my head.
Yeah, but then again, you have to remember there has been a quite extended break. Some have been taking holidays. I know I remember speaking to G2, and I think Shox was off fishing. We had Kenny was going to Ibiza.
Yeah.
So
this instills confidence in the fact that they've changed things up.
To use for the player break, you know, to recharge your batteries.
That's it. Exactly where you need to go. Just to get some sun and maybe listen to some classical music. That's what's going on over there. But yeah, so sometimes a break does inspire a little bit of a burst from these guys. We get to see exactly how well they have handled it. 36 days since we got to see them in an offline environment. Now they're taking it to the stage. Now the discussion gets fun because I'm intrigued to know, not necessarily predictions, but let's start this discussion with my CSGO brain trust as to how this one is going to be going down. So let's get the Vetos just fresh in our heads. We start with Cobble. Yeah. SK been picking that an awful lot. This is going to be kind of, you were saying, Janko, it's up there as one of their most favorite maps right now. Outside of that, then G2 respond with their rebuttal of Inferno, which has got you a little beat. And then we end on Mirage. If G2 were to win this, where do those wins happen?
First two maps, I believe. I think on Mirage, so, something that goes their way a little bit is the fact that SK does seem to struggle a little bit against teams that are unknown to them, right? And G2 is to an extent an unknown, at least when it comes to Mirage. SK really benefits from that preparation and analysis of their opponents. So if it comes to Mirage, that might be a silver lining for G2, but it's just the fact that SK is so comfortable on the map, both as a team and individually. They just have natural reactions to things happening on the map, something that other teams maybe need to communicate or still need to figure out. So if it comes to that third map, I'm definitely favoring SK. They got 2 out of their 3 best maps, and G2's pick is 60-40 at best.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that might be kind, yeah.
Generous. 16-5 score versus North on Cobble. We saw SK's, like, they've kind of flexed on us already, right, Jacob? We know what they're capable of.
The thing is, Cobble is their new go-to pick. You know, it used to be Train with that 24-0 record, which ended with removing FNX and getting in Phelps on the team. You know, and now it seems like they picked up Cobble as this safe pick where they always can go in and at least get one map in a series. And I don't think G2 has what it takes to go up against SK on Cobble. I haven't seen enough of them on the map itself, you know, especially not compared to how SK have been playing lately on Cobble.
So to kind of expand upon that and wrap in your prediction, I want to know, what is it that makes the SK's Cobble so good, or is it just that's not something you can answer quickly?
Yep. Yes, you can.
You can. Like, they're just good, you know.
And they have Cold Zero holding drop. It's like apparently the only player who's able to do it by himself. Everywhere, at window, in the little room.
E-box,
everything. Like, it's insane how proficient he is. That's the reason why Taco started opping, because when Cold Zero was opping on Cobblestone, he had to move out of drop to go to the platform, obviously, and then they couldn't hold drop. So it was like, it's easier for Taco to learn how to op than for us to learn how to hold drop without Cold Zero.
That's a discussion a lot of teams have, you know. You want your best player playing drop if you can, you know. Not a lot of players are willing to do it because it's usually seen as this like players.
Yeah,
you don't get
really
a lot of frags, you know. It's you die in frustrating ways. But Cold Zero sort of like embraced the fact that he can play Cobble and he can play drop zone, and that benefits his team so much. As Janko said, I need to see G2 win the 2 first maps in order to win the series, and they're not going to win Cobble, so it's not going to happen.
There we go. Okay, so one for SK from Jacob. What are you thinking, Elvo?
Well, I'm leaning towards SK as a whole. I'm not really sure. The one thing that excites me about Cobble is the fact that, again, we talked about playstyles initially, and the fact that we've seen a team like Immortals being able to be one of those teams that actually really bring it to SK. Again, we can talk about how that might be a domestic factor that brings that out of them, but when they play Cobble, they're just always tough to play against. And G2, kind of Immortals-esque in the way they play that map. So I think that could definitely, bring problems for the SK side, regardless of how, good and fundamentally strong they normally are on that map, and especially as of late. But as a whole, I'm still going to side with the world #1 as of right now. So I'm thinking SK, but I'm
2 for SK.
Yeah, and I'm going to give them a 2-0.
2-2-0 as well. Now, Janko, before you give your prediction, we're going to get even more brains involved in this conversation because the casters are chomping at the bit to join the discussion. I know it sometimes sounds like a sentence, but it is, of course, Henry G and Sadek.
I'm not going to lie to you, I don't know how much more brains we really are.
A bit of brawn then. A bit of brawn for the brains here.
And brown.
But we'll let Janko jump in and quickly tell us.
Been a good summer.
I think we had a very strong segment here, boys. Good pre-show, good points, but we forgot the most important one. It's G2
First match of the
and it's the first game of the day.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
They do not come off as a team that likes to play in the morning, so I am going with SK on this one as well.
I hadn't even thought about that.
2-0?
2-0.
All right.
Oh, damn.
Wow.
It's getting a bit spicy here. I think I'd give G2 a bit more credit. A nice 3-mapper, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. How about what's going on the casting desk?
Well, I mean, if you think about G2, they had a really slow start. They were a while getting this team sort of functioning as people expected, and then they obviously peaked at a Star Ladder event in the group stages, but they haven't really had anything successful to go with it, and I'm not really impressed by that. So I'm kind of thinking I'm leaning against them and going toward SK in this as well.
Yeah, I'm going with SK as well. I think 2-0. I think Cobblestone will be indicative as to what G2 turns up today. SK being up and down this tournament, but I feel like they're going to get it together.
Yeah, and it is very hard to doubt SK, isn't it, really? The #1 team in the world in the rankings taking on G2. They are the curveball and they've picked up wins in the past. We'll see how it goes down. Henry G and Selu, do your thing.
Thank you very much. I don't know if we'll do that